Okay, let's start. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मनोजवं मारुततुल्य वेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथ मुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविता शाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् दक्षिणे लक्ष्मणो यस्य वामे तु जनकात्मजा पुरतो मारुतिर्यस्य तं वन्दे रघुनन्दनम् श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव उग्र नरसिंहदेव की जय। So welcome back. We are continuing from Kishkinda Kanda. Today chapter 30. Between where we left off and where we are, much has happened, which I referred to when we ended our previous session, that I will not be going through those chapters because during Kartik of last year, I made the series of videos that cover Sri Ramachandra's separation from Sita Devi as he was sitting on top of Mount Prasavana. And actually, in that series, I had stopped what I was narrating somewhere around verse number 60 of chapter 30. So I'm going to start from verse 62 onwards of chapter 30. And an interesting point is, we just visited Mount Prasavana 2 days ago. It is in the area of Hampi. And of course, it's not called Mount Prasavana anymore. There is a temple of Lord Ramachandra. And that hill is called Malyavanta Raghunath Temple or hill. And in that, I'll forward to our Ramayana group a picture of Sri Ramachandra, Lakshmana, and Sita Devi along with Hanuman. Now in this story, Sita Devi is not present physically, let's say. But the reason she's there is because she is filled Ramachandra's heart. And that's the verse we will hear. So since she is there in his heart, the deity of Sita Devi is right next to him. And when I send the picture, depending on the resolution, if you zoom into Hanumanji, it's supposedly a very unique form of Hanuman or posture of Hanuman, that he is sitting or he's kneeling on the ground and his both hands are in this form. And the pastime is that he brought great delight to Ramachandra's heart after meeting Sita Devi and bringing her Chudamani, that is the jewel that is used in the hair. So it's like a top pin. And he's handing the jewel to Sri Ramachandra. And the position Sri Ramachandra is in is mostly we see Ramachandra standing in Bhadrachalam, which we were in a few days ago. Ramachandra is seated and Sita Devi is sitting on his lap. Here also, Ramachandra is seated in Padmasana. And in his hand is either, we couldn't see the heart, but the person was saying that his hand is on his heart or with a japa mala, and his mind is fully absorbed and meditating on Sita Devi. So that is the form of Ramachandra, and Lakshmana standing right next to him. So chapter 30, the verses leading up to this point here, Ramachandra has seen that the 4 months of Chaturmas are over. The sky has become clear. Instead of dark black clouds, the sky is filled with white clouds. That means the season is over. Rain of 4 months is gone. Different varieties of birds are crossing across the sky. There is new life, and all of the pairs of birds and animals are making loud mating calls. Naturally, when Sri Ramachandra hears this, his own desire to be with Sita Devi and his own love has become so intensified that he is very, very deeply afflicted by pangs of separation, love in separation. And he begins to speak to Lakshmana with a parched tongue. That means he is so much in distress. Any one of us has observed when we are in distress, if you want Arjuna's situation or any one of ours, when they are in severe distress, our tongue becomes parched. And the word sometimes used is shoka artena. Artha means distress. Shoka artena means distress of lamentation or grief. And in that state, Ramachandra is telling Lakshmana, Lakshmana, just look in the sky. All the swans, the sarasas, the chakravakas, and the kurara birds are scattered all over, especially on the river banks. So we saw the river Tungabhadra. He's referring to that river here. And then he says to Lakshmana, oh, Lakshmana, now that the skies have cleared, this is the time great kings take on new expeditions. And kings who have been waiting for victory start off projects that they have kept aside waiting during Chaturmas. So this is the time for the first expedition of the year by kings. So apparently Chaturmasa, in one sense, ends an administrative year. And when this part of time begins, after Chaturmas, so sometime around late November, Ramachandra is saying kings start new projects, expeditions, because everything is clear. There's no rain. The weather, everything is favorable. He says, but I don't find Sugriva making any effort. 4 months have passed, and without seeing Sita, I feel these 4 months feel like 100 years for my grief-stricken heart. I'll read the sloka because there is a Shikshashtaka verse that is similar. Chatvaro varshika masa gata varsha shatopamaha mama shoka vibhutasya saumya sitam apashyataha. Sitam apashyataha, not seeing Sita. Mama shoka abhibhutasya, because I am in this very distressed condition. I am being tormented by distress, shoka or grief, due to her absence. Chatvaro varshika masa, the 4 months of rain, gata, have gone away, but varsha shatopamaha, they feel like 100 years. There is a verse in Shikshashtaka. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Ainandak tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam budhav kripaya tavapada pankaja stitaduli sadrisham vichantaya nayanam galadashudharaya vadanam gadagadurudhaya gira pulakair nichitam vapu kada tavanama grahane bhavishyati. And then something similar, yugayitam nimeshena. 1 minute feels like 12 years or more. Chakshusha prayushaitam, because I cannot see you. 1 minute that passes away feels like 12 years or more. Shunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahe name. Virahena, because of separation, Govinda, everything feels so dull, boring that it seems to take on forever for one situation to move into another situation. There, the devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of the consort of the Lord, Radharani, is pining for Govinda. Here, Govinda or Sri Ramachandra is pining for his consort. And he's saying the same thing. Feels like 100 years have passed. And he says, look, Lakshmana, the female Chakravaka bird is very lovingly following her male. This is exactly the way Sita followed me into this treacherous, dense Dandaka forest. And she didn't think the forest was dense and dangerous. She thought it was some pleasure garden, as if she was walking into some fun place. Chakravakiva bhartaran prushthato anugata vanam. Prushtata means from the back, from the behind. Just as this Chakravaka female is following her male because she's interested in being with him, Sita walked into this Dandakaranyam. Udyanam eva. She considered Dandaka as a pleasure garden. Although it's full of demons, deadly animals, snakes, no shelter at night. But for her, being with Ramachandra means even in the worst of conditions, it felt like a pleasure garden. What it also is not spoken, but Ramachandra is appreciating Sita Devi is, without Ramachandra, even if she was in the pleasure gardens of Ayodhya, it would have felt like a deadly forest. So a practical application as aspiring devotees, of course, I'm saying but it's far-fetched for me, but it's a practical application nevertheless, that what feels joyful or distressful depends upon whether or not we feel the company of the Lord in our life. Otherwise, wonderful circumstances are Govinda Virahena, because of absence of the sense that the Supreme Lord is not with me, or I'm not with him, and then it has no attraction. This is the heart of great devotees. Then Ramachandra, now that he has talked of Sita Devi, immediately the mind has become even more distressed because Sita is not there. Yes. Sugriva shows no mercy to me. Although I am so strongly struck with grief, Sugriva is not showing any mercy upon me because I am separated from my wife and I've been banished from my kingdom. Okay, so these two references are a sort of sarcasm towards Sugriva. Priya Vihine, Vihina without. Priya Vihine, without my darling wife, Sita Devi. Dukkharte, my heart is in severe distress. Khrita Rajye Vivasate. Khrita Rajye means my kingdom has been taken away. Vivasate, I've been banished. Vasa means to stay. Vivasa means to be banished. Why is Ramachandra using these two references? Because this was exactly in the condition he found Sugriva in. Priya Vihine Dukkharte Khrita Rajye Vivasate. So he's saying Sugriva was in this condition and I helped him. I am in this condition. Kripan na kurute Raja. This Sugriva, Raja, he's calling him Raja. Why? Of course, he's the king, but the idea that the king is very, very compassionate. But this Sugriva, who's supposed to be compassionate, Kripan na kurute, he's not expressing his mercy upon me. Unto me, Lakshmana. So he is opening his heart and crying to Lakshmana. And he says, maybe Sugriva is thinking, Anatho, Ramachandra has no shelter. Anath, meaning he's not such an important person. Hritarajyo, this Ramachandra is an Anatha, and his kingdom has been taken away. Ravanena cha dharshita, and he is being tormented by Ravana. Deenaha, helpless. Durgraha, he is without a house, or outraged. So Ramachandra may be very outraged because Ravana is tormenting him. Kami mam chaiva sharanam gata. Kami is pining for his wife, and therefore he has come to my sharana. He has come to my shelter. So suddenly Ramachandra is saying that Sugriva is thinking of himself greater, that the fellow was in the same distress, but now that the distress is gone, he has forgotten what distress he was in, and he's thinking of me as some helpless fellow. Iti etaha, thinking like this. Etaha means all these. Iti etaha karanai saumya. Oh, Lakshmana, you're a very gentle person. Sugrivasya duratmanaha, that fellow is evil-minded. Now Ramachandra and Lakshmana are friends, but Ramachandra is calling Sugriva duratmana, and we'll hear why. Aham vanara rajyasya paribhuta parantapa. This king of monkeys has become evil-minded. His mind has become corrupt, duratmana. And the reason Ramachandra has determined that Sugriva has become duratma or duratmana is, he says, Sa kalan parishankyaya sitayaha parimargane kritarthasamyam kritva durmatir navabudhyate. Durmati, his mind has become corrupt because that time where we were supposed to relax because of Chaturmas has gone, and he has not realized that the 4 months have passed away. And he's saying he's not realized because he is not holding in his heart a friend's interest. If genuinely Sugriva wanted to help, he would be eagerly waiting. When will this Chaturmas be over so I can begin searching for Sita? He hasn't done that. Avabuddhyaye. He is ignorant. He's not aware. Avabuddhyaye means he's not aware that the time has passed. So he says, Lakshmana, I want you to do something. Tvam cha Kishkindhan pravishya. Go to Kishkinda right now. Bruhi vanara pungavam. And you speak to that. Pungava means the best of the king of monkeys. What do you have to tell him? Murkhan, you fool. Murkha means fool. Murkham gramya sukhe saktam. You are enjoying worldly pleasures. Sugrivam vachanan mamaha. You become so corrupt that you are enjoying paltry, carnal desires with your wives and all your friends, reveling in parties, that you have become negligent of your promise. And then he says, then Ramachandra tells Lakshmana the message. Arthinam upapannanam purvam cha api upakarinam ashan samsrutya yohanti saloke purushadhamaha. Adhama means the lowest. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the lowest of mankind. Adhama. In the Guru Vandana song, we say Srila Prabhupada is the friend of those who are fallen. Adhama. Adhama Janara Bandhu. So he is calling him Purusha Adhama. Although he is a monkey, he is saying Purusha Adhama because he is talking of a principle. And the principle is Arthinam upapannanam. When someone has approached you for help, when you have approached someone for help, purvam, previously, cha api upakarinam, and they have done you a favor, ashan samsrutya yohanti, and after they have done you the favor, and now they are hoping that you will return the favor, hanti, you have ignored it. Such a person, sa loke purusha adhama, is the most fallen. That means if you have been done a favor and you don't return that favor to your friends, then you're the worst of the lot. And then he says, it doesn't matter when you made the promise, whether the act was good or bad. Once you made a promise, you're supposed to carry it out. Shubhan va yadi va papam, yohi vakyam udiratam. Once you gave your word, satyena pratigranhanti sa viraha purushottama. Now the opposite is being talked. First he said, Purusha Adhama, the lowest of mankind. And now he's talking of Purusha Uttama, the best of human beings, is Satyena Pratigranati Saviraha, one who has the courage to fulfill their word and order, even if at the time of making promise they didn't realize that it might be sinful. So an example is, and we should be careful how we apply this, when Parshuram's father, Jamadagni, gave an order to Parshuram, you should cut off your mother Renuka's head. Out of gratitude for his father, he actually did something that is very sinful. But he was protected by the father's word. Because his father is not some fellow who had a problem with his wife, cut off her head. Not like that. Some cheap fellow. And as soon as that was done, his father became very pleased and said, you have pleased me so much. What would you like? He said, I want my mother back. So he fulfilled his father's order. He also protected his mother. So it requires very refined intelligence. And therefore, Ramachandra calls such a person Purusha Uttama. But one should not think, at that time I made a promise, but I thought about it. I should not do it. Yes, if it is going to harm someone, as a normal human being, we may have some considerations. For example, this verse can be wrongly applied by saying Karna, who made a promise to Duryodhana, stayed on Duryodhana's side. But the point is, Karna knew that Duryodhana was a very sinful person even before he made such a promise. Because he saw many, many incidents. In fact, Karna participated in it. Not only were the Pandavas cheated, but they were put in a house of shellac. That house was put on fire. Then they were tormented. Durvasa Muni was sent. They were hiding in Virat's palace. There also, there were spies constantly, etc., etc. There's so much of evil doings on Duryodhana's part. And someone might say, look at Karna. He stood by his friend. Karna is foolish. So one should be careful what Ramachandra is saying and how we apply this verse. He's talking about someone who has given a word after and said that I will return a favor. Then he says, a person who's ungrateful, even carnivorous animals will not touch that body. This exact verse in the next chapter or so, Lakshmana will repeat to Sugriva or Angada. Okay, it's an important verse. I'll see if I can post it on our forum. Krithartha hi akritarthanam mitranam na bhavanti ye tan mritan api kravyadaha kritagnan nopa bhunjate. Kritartha, one who has been shown favor, one who has received benefit. He, for sure. Akritarthanam mitranam. does not make does not make good the favor to his friend or her friend. Na bhavanti ye, one who does not do it. Such a person, mritan api, after they die, kravyadaha, carnivorous animals, kritagnan na upabunjade. So such an ungrateful person, kritagna. So there are two meanings. Kritagya means one who knows what favor has been done to me. And kritagna means one who doesn't care, one who disregards the favor that has been done to such a person. So Ramachandra is saying, kritagnan na upabhunjate. Even those animals don't eat such a body. Now, have you seen a tiger or a lion or any other carnivorous animal like a hyena? They don't make a distinction what body is there. As soon as they see some dead body, flesh, they don't make any distinction. Even such animals, they look at an ungrateful person and say, chichi, that meat is very bad. I cannot touch it. It's distasteful. Now we cannot go actually check, but Ramachandra is saying that the state of an ungrateful person is such that even carnivorous animals who have no intelligence other than, oh, looking for meat and eating, they will say, not good. I don't want to touch such a person. So it's a very heavy statement. Then Ramachandra says, Sugriva is taking me very lightly. I think he wants to see the back end of my arrow, which is shining with gold. Why the back end of the arrow? Because when the arrow pierces the heart, you don't see the front end. What is remaining is the back piece. It's shining with gold. Nunam kanchana prishthasya. Kanchana is gold. Prishtha means arrow has two parts, the front part and the back part. The back has golden feathers in it, Ramachandra's arrow. He says, Nunam kanchana prishthasya vikrishtasya maya rane. Vikrishtasya maya rane. By me in a battlefield, when my bow is bent. Vikrishta means to bend a bow. Drashtumichhati. That fellow wants to see the back half of my arrow. It's a poetic way of saying he wants to get the arrow in his chest. Cha apasya rupam vidyut ganopamam. He wants to see the form of my arrow, rupam vidyut ganopam, like a flash of lightning in a cluster of clouds. Why the comparison of flash of lightning? Of course, it has golden shaft and golden feathers. That's true. But flash of lightning, you've seen lightning? Fast. That means from the time Ramachandra leaves the arrow and it pierces Sugriva's heart, it's flash of lightning. Before he even realizes what happened, even before he takes a breath, that arrow will pierce his heart and he'll see the golden back half of that arrow. This is Ramachandra's anger. Very beautiful. Vidyut ganopamam. That is what he's going to. He'll look and say, he'll see a flash and he'll know what it is. Next thing, that arrow is in his chest. And then he says, maybe he's desirous to hear the heavy thundering noise of the twanging of my bow. When I release an arrow, when Ramachandra releases an arrow, the string of the bow that is pulled, when it comes back, it twangs with a very, very loud noise. And that noise can shatter the heart of the opponent. Just as in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna and Krishna blow their conches, what does Vyasadeva say? It shattered everyone. Ramchandra is saying, my bow, the string, when it twangs, maybe he wants to hear that. These are poetic ways of saying he's inviting his own death. Sugriva is inviting his own death. And then he's saying, Lakshmana, he's calling Lakshmana, Kamena, Kamam evangate apashya, Parigyate parakrame, Tvat sahayasya me veera, Nachintasyan Nripatmaja, Nripa Atmaja, Lakshmana, who's a prince, is telling him, Lakshmana, you're Parakrama, you're a very great person. He's inciting in Lakshmana the chivalrous nature, because he has to go give the message with seriousness. If Ramachandra is saying Sugriva is Durmati, he has been ungrateful and maybe he wants to die in my hands, but Lakshmana goes and says, Sugriva Prabhu, uh, Ramachandra is sad, you want to die in his hands? The message has no potency to it. So he's inciting Lakshmana's virya. So he's calling Parakrama, Veera, Nripatmaja, because you're a Kshatriya, deliver the message properly. And he says, this monkey, Lavangeshwaraha, the king of monkeys, does not understand how important is my mission to find Sita Devi. And Varshan Samayukalan. I'm sorry, Varsham Samayakalam tu Pratigyaya Harishwaraha. This monkey has not realized that all the rain is over now. And he is being so reveling that he is not aware. So go to Sugriva and make him aware that I'm beginning to get very angry. And this is the message you will give him. So Sugriva is going to hear from Lakshmana these words. Naja shankuchita pantha yena vali hato gataha samaye tishtha Sugriva ma vali patham anvagaha. This is a warning. He says, Na cha shankuchitaha pantha. Pantha means the path. The path on which Vali has gone has not become narrow. What does it mean? That the road is, what does it mean? The road is wide open, Sugriva. The gates haven't closed. I can send you also. Just the way I sent Vali, I will send you also. Nacha shankuchita pantha. That path has not become narrow. Yena Vali hatogata. After killing Vali, that's the path he went in. Samaye tishta Sugriva. Samaye, the words, the promise that you've made. Tishta, fulfill it. Be fixed in it. Ma Vali pathaman vagaha. Don't go on that path of Vali. Meaning, save your life. And then he said, Eka eva rane Vali sharena nihato maya. This Vali who was punching you and crushing you, one arrow finished. Eka eva rane Vali sharena. Eka sharena. With one arrow, Vali nihato maya. Vali was killed by me. Tvam tu satya adikrantam. Tvam tu satya adikrantam. If you take a step out of being truthful to your promise, Hanishyami sa bandhavan. I will finish not only you, all your monkey relatives will be finished. Kishkinda will be empty. No more monkeys. We saw monkeys in Kishkinda. Thanks to Sugriva fulfilling the order. Otherwise, no monkey race would have been finished. So what a warning. Tvam tu satya adikrantam hanishyami sa bandhavan. Vali, one arrow. For you, everyone gone. Because you are enjoying with your wives, children, ministers, party kar raha hai na? We'll finish it off. Oh, Lakshmana, because you're a bull among men, Purusharshabha, you're the best among human beings. Tadevam vihite karye yadhitam. Tell him this. Tad bruhi narashrestha kala vyatikramam. Tell him, time's up. Enough partying. Hurry up. And Kurushva Satyam Mai Vanareshwara. Fulfill your promise. How many times Ramachandra is saying to Sugriva in the message, fulfill your promise, fulfill your promise, fulfill your promise. Not once, repeated so many times. Kurushva Satyam Mai, fulfill your promise to me. Pratishrutam Dharmam Aveksha Shashvatam. Ma Valim Pretyagato Yamakshayam. Don't go to the place where Vali's body has gone. Tvam Adya Pashyer Mama Chodita Sharaihi. You will see my arrows and then you will see Yamaraj. When Ramachandra spoke like this, Valmiki calls Ramachandra after all these verses. Ramachandra seems angry, no? Sad, angry, all these mixed emotions. Yet Valmiki calls Ramachandra Manavam Manavamshthanataha, the protector of all living beings. That's the title given to Ramachandra, or the adjective. I'll read the verse. Sa purvajam tivra vriddha kopan lalapyamanan prasamikshadinam chakara tivran mati mugrateja harishware manavanscha nathaha. When Lakshmana saw Ramachandra, the protector of all, Manavan can mean human race, but it can also mean all living beings. Lakshmana saw on the one hand Ramachandra, who's very kind and always protecting the living beings, was crying, wailing. Lalapyamana. Crying doesn't mean one tear like that. A torrent of tears. Seriously crying on top of Mount Prasavana. Lakshmana, he pressed down on the ground. His stand became very intense. So it doesn't say specifically, but we can imagine that Lakshmana is clasping his bow very tightly and started to charge towards Rishyamukha mountain or Kishkinda. I mean, all of it is in the Kishkinda range, but from this mountain, he got down to go to where Sugriva was. Tivran Matim Ugrateja. His mind became very, very angry, intensified. And Lakshmana is now, in one sense, very happy. Happy in the sense, Lakshmana, throughout Ramayana, if you notice, any distress upon himself, he never complains. In fact, we never hear that Lakshmana was in any distress. Not even one verse. Why? Not because Valmiki did not write about it. That is true, he did not write. But not by not writing, we are supposed to derive the understanding that for Lakshmana, being in the forest with Ramachandra was no distress at all. We hear the distress of Ramachandra. And whenever Ramachandra is in distress, Lakshmana becomes agitated because he cannot tolerate even the slightest pain in Ramachandra, although he can tolerate any amount of pain in himself. He has not slept. 14 years are almost getting over. He has not slept. He is constantly doing seva. He has built houses. He's carrying all the weapons. He's carrying the clothes of Sita Devi. Although Sita is not there, the clothes are there. Right? He's building boats. He's building huts. He's eating fruits and berries and some roots lying down on the floor. His glory has not been recognized by Sugriva also. Disrespected also. But we never see Lakshmana slap Sugriva and say, hey, why are you disrespecting me? I'm the son of Ikshvaku. I'm a descendant of Ikshvaku, son of Dasharatha. Between Ramachandra and me, only 12 hours of difference, or what, 24 hours maybe. But he always saw himself as a servant, so there was no need for being insulted. He never felt it. But the slightest distress in Ramachandra, Lakshmana gets very agitated. And every time he wants to say, let me repair this situation. And Ramachandra said, Lakshmana, cool down. No. you will burn the entire Ayodhya down. He said, in fact, earlier, when Dashrath Maharaj says to Ramachandra, you should go to the forest, Lakshmana becomes so angry. He says, who's this fellow, this king? He's talking about his father. Reverential, they would touch his feet every day. Who's this fellow? Because his wife told him, henpecked by her, he's telling, you cannot be the king. I will finish Dashrath. I will finish the entire Ayodhya. Anyone, Bharata, Shatru, anyone who says no to you, I will finish. I'll burn down the entire Ayodhya, but make you the king. That's the kind of agitation he has when he sees Ramachandra in distress. This is bhakti. But for himself, not even a word. He never says, I'm going to attack this one, hit that one. Nothing. Just sits quietly. But now, Ramachandra has given him an opportunity. Go give Sugriva a warning. Hey, Ramachandra will kill you if you don't get your act together. Sugriva like, great opportunity. Lakshmana has a great opportunity. I'm going. So, Matim Ugrateja has become very, very anger. He's become angry. Why? One, because Sugriva has not done this. Second, looking at Ramachandra. Lalapyamanam. Deenam. Ramachandra is looking helpless. Although Ramachandra doesn't need anyone's help. But the verse again and again, multiple verses, we hear Ramachandra telling Sugriva, Satyam, meaning make your word come true. And this is the most important thing for Ramachandra. Make your word come true. Because he makes his word come true all the time. Whatever is the condition. He could have told Sugriva, you first help me find my wife, because if I don't find Sita, Bharata is going to give up his life. I have two disasters waiting. You're anyway living in the forest and you're protected because Vali cannot come. You help me first. My problem is bigger. He never said that. He said, I'll help you first. But then you help me. He gave Sugriva the kingdom back. He gave Sugriva his wife back. What is the return Ramachandra asked? He didn't say bring Sita back. He didn't say kill Ravana. Search Sita. Just tell me where she is. Rest I'll take care. So in terms of comparison, Sugriva's what he has to do is very small compared to what Ramachandra had to do for Sugriva. Gave him the kingdom, coronated him, gave his wife back, everything. He just said, just search for Sita for me. Nothing else you have to do. So when Lakshmana sees this, he is in severe distress. So with that, we end chapter 30. And let's see if there are any questions or comments or thoughts. Should I be increasing the volume in my speaker? Or is there anyone has any questions or comments or reflections, realization? Please, I'd love to hear.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna Prabhupada. You're talking about Sugriva being not keeping his promise. And if I ask you the question, and if your answer is that because he's an animal, so he cannot able to keep his promise. But how is it possible? And at one point you were saying that animals are so clever that they don't even want to eat the flesh of a demoralized person. So how can one so demoralized or unethical or unlawful to maintain his relationship or promise is given to the other person, even if he's an animal?
I'm not sure I could hear you clearly or understand your question. Can you say it one more time, please? Slowly but loudly.
Yeah. So you told that Sugriva didn't keep his promise to Lord Ramchandra. And if your answer is because he was an animal, that's why he didn't keep his promise, he forgot. But at the second
Not,
the second
let me modify. I don't know if I said because he's an animal.
no. You
Ramachandra.
never say that. You never say that. I'm
Okay.
speculating. You never said that. The second thing we heard from you that animals are also so clever. They don't want to eat the flesh of the person who is uh,
Ungrateful.
unethical or ungrateful. So how can Sugriva be so unethical or unlawful or ungrateful that he got so many obligations and so much, he got so many things from Lord Ramchandra, and still he didn't kept his word?
And that is the whole problem here. Because Sugriva, uh, uh, Sugriva is in one sense uh, taking on the role or behaving like a sadhaka. A sadhaka, when in distress, prays to the Supreme Lord, please show me your favor. And when the Lord expresses some way and removes the distress, then the happiness of the removal of the distress is so intense that they forget their bhakti. They are enjoying the outcome of the removal of the distress. And so, how is that possible? It is possible because the mind is absorbed in sense gratification. And in this case, Ramachandra is sending Lakshmana as a messenger. So the Supreme Lord, through Guru or Gurus or other devotees, somehow taps us on the shoulder. Hey, Haribol, you got some favor and you are now wallowing in the pleasure of the senses. What about reciprocation? You as a sadhaka are always looking for reciprocation from me. What about reciprocation with me? Because love means reciprocity.
Yeah, thank you. It makes sense. You're talking about devotional aspect. Let's don't
You can't hear,
let's
so I'll
don't
repeat.
talk even about devotional aspect. Let's talk about the two normal person. I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't want to stretch it. Even two normal person. If I got favor from you, it's my responsibility to remember you and think about you. It's a normal etiquette, right?
Yeah, but it's possible to forget. It is quite possible. So Himangi, because you said before you said, Himangi was saying that on the other side, the Guru is very eager to relieve the distress of the Lord too. And so Lakshmana is eager and happy to send the message to Sugriva because he doesn't want Sugriva to die. He wants Sugriva to be alive and enjoy the friendship and relationship with Sri Ramachandra.
I was in general the principle I was thinking when you were narrating this past is the Lord always has the anxiety that he wants his parts and parcels to come back to him. And the Guru is the instrument through which he constantly sends the reminder to the Jiva who
Wayward.
lost the commitment he makes to the Lord, but he forgets. So the Guru is the one who keeps it reminding. And Lakshmana going with the force, I was thinking sometimes the instructions of the Guru means are heavy because he feels the anxiety of the Lord.
Did you hear?
Yes, I hear. Nice to hear your
Okay,
voice,
good.
Mataji. Yeah, I hear. Thank you.
So the song Bhuliya Tumhare, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, I forgot. Nana Vidha Vyartha, I've sort of forgotten my relationship with you. Now remove that. Between two people, it is quite possible that with passage of time, one may forget the favor one has received from another. Go back to the story of Drupada and Dronacharya. They were very, very good friends in their childhood. Such good friends that Drupada said, hey, I'm going to become king. Half my kingdom is yours. Great. Because he got friendship of Dronacharya, he gave a word. And when they grew up, many years later, Dronacharya, who was in severe financial distress, went to remind Drupada. And Drupada laughed it off. Come on. In childhood, we say all sorts of things. Why do we take it seriously? So it's possible. Time and engagement in matter makes one forget. Why forgetfulness comes? Because of engagement with matter. Because matter is transitory. Memory also goes away because of matter. So it's quite possible. You can simplify it and say, I received a favor. How can I forget? Yeah, that's true. The question is, how can one forget? And the reality is, one forgets. It's quite natural. One forgets. And because Ramachandra is a good friend, he didn't bear grudge. He said, let me send him a message. At least he may wake up and fulfill his promise.
I was also thinking that like, monkeys have very high intelligence, but their ability, but they cannot hold on to their attention for a long time. Their attention keeps shifting. I felt that it's very symbolic of the human nature, highly evolved intelligence. Unfortunately, they cannot stay focused on what the
Distracted.
right purpose of their life. So I felt that Sugriva is actually represents, the conditioned soul, which keeps, even though it has the intelligence, it can comprehend, but then because it has this deficiency of getting distracted constantly, so the guru needs to come and constantly remind.
Very good. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
This is Kirti here, Prabhu.
Hare
I have,
Krishna.
I have a question on the topic of um, gratefulness and upholding one's promise. You brought the analogy of Karna standing by Duryodhana, although he was um, not good and engaged in all sorts of bad, sinful activities. And somehow I was thinking about two cases. One was Dasharatha. He gave a promise to Kaikeyi, and she asked these terrible boons in return from him. And Dasharatha, he felt obliged to concede. On the other side, I was thinking about Vasudev. He made a promise that he would give all the children born to Devaki to Kamsa, but in the case of Rama, he did not. In the case of Krishna, he did not take Krishna to Kamsa. So I was just thinking how in day-to-day life, when I deal with situations and someone makes a promise and don't uphold it, or I make a promise and I have second thoughts, how do we judge this and say it is okay to go back, or I should withhold that? I should fulfill my promise? Because in these two situations, in one case I see that the promise was kept, and in another case promise was withdrawn, and both were right.
Exactly. And in both cases, it's the Supreme Lord who told them what to do. Dasharath Maharaj was willing to give up his life. In fact, he even said, arrest me. You have every right to arrest me and take away the kingdom. No one will object. And Ramchandra said, no, you gave a word and your word has to come true. Because there is a hidden purpose behind. Ramachandra has to go to the forest. But it's the order of the Lord. And in Vasudeva's case, he appeared in 4 arms and said, take me across the river. Vasudeva didn't say, actually I can't because I am told Kamsa. He saw Lord, the Supreme Lord, and said, take me that side, and he took. So if the instruction is directly from the Lord, that supersedes everything else. because a human being might have the inability or deficiency of not fully understanding what to do in every and all circumstances. Here, for both of them, it's direct orders, both as the son telling their fathers. So it's not cut and dry. That's why I said one must be careful how one applies that verse. What Ramachandra is talking is, as friends, once we said, I will do this, it's a spoken contract. Not only spoken, they shook hands in front of fire, in the presence of Agni Dev. So he's saying, fulfill your promise. And he's not asking him to do anything adharmic. That is also there. If it is adharmic, Sugriva, even if he objects, Ramachandra can say, yeah, okay, I give that to you because you want to uphold a higher principle of dharma. There's nothing like that here. Ramachandra is dharmishta. Sugriva is slacking. Okay, I have a request. When
Thank you, Prabhu.
any one of us our identity shows as, in this case, Kirti, yours says iPhone. Could you kindly put in your name, not just you, anyone else, because I won't be able to identify who is iPhone, and our friends here who are moderators generally will yeah, thank you, Kirti, generally will cancel that person's access, because I don't want any problems from iPhone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. One
Okay.
quick note,
Anything
if you have
else?
time.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hold on, Chandan Prabhu. Kirti hasn't finished.
And this is a side note, Prabhu. Thank you for your reply. I was just thinking about how Rama was addressing Lakshmana when Dasratha asked Rama to go to the forest. Lakshmana was very angry and agitated, and Rama pacifies him by saying, "Oh, gentle brother or gentle soul." Here he is inciting his anger. He's addressing as conqueror or chastiser. So it's very apt to the situation. Thank you.
And similarly, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna by calling him Bharata, Bharata, meaning tolerate. That's the verse Tam Titikshasva Bharata. Kaunteya. It uses a name to invoke a certain emotion associated with the event or circumstance.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let's go. Chandan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the
Hare Krishna.
very good talk, Prabhu. Prabhu, generally, like Lord Ram is called as a Dheer and Veera, and he doesn't show angry. Generally, we have seen he is very cool and calm. Even next day, his coronation is going to happen, and the same day, like he is getting order from his father that you have to go to the forest, and that time also he was very cool and calm. So I want to say that anger and quality of anger is not in the nature of the Lord Ram. But here, as soon as the time passes, 4 months, the Chaturmasa, Lord is sending the warning through the Lakshmana, and in the warning, he is using very harsh word. As you explained, that he will see the back portion of my this arrow, and then the light flashes time, he will die. All those things. What does it mean? So Lord is going against his nature. So, what is the learning behind that?
So he's not going against his nature. His nature is described in the very first chapter when Valmiki Rishi is asking Narada Muni 16 qualities in a person. And one of the qualities he says, Jita Krodha. That's how Ramayana starts. That Valmiki is asking questions of Narada Muni. And next verse, he gives a whole list of qualities. One of the qualities is Jita Krodha, one who has conquered his anger. And the 16th quality he says, Jata Roshasya Samyuge Yascha Bibhyati Devascha. That one who has conquered his anger, but when he becomes angry, even the demigods will shiver. Kasya Bibhyati Devascha. Even the demigods will be completely scared, freaked out when the Lord becomes angry. So to say that anger is not in the nature of the Lord will need to be modified a little bit. That he has conquered his anger, and anger is used as an instrument. So in the life of conditioned souls like me, we are instruments of anger. And great souls, pure devotees, and Sri Ramachandra, anger is an instrument in their hands. It's a difference. Who's the driver and who's the instrument? So here, Ramachandra's anger is he's having this pain of separation from Sita Devi, but his anger is also that Sugriva is not being truthful to his promise. Now Ramachandra is Satyena Jayate Lokan. Satyena Lokan Jayate. That is the title for Ramachandra, that he conquers the entire world by Satya. And Sugriva is not being Satya. So that is his anger. It is to correct and reinstate his dear friend. And for Sugriva at this point in time, because he is severely afflicted by the mode of ignorance, intoxication, and sensual indulgence, another item of ignorance is anger. Although the Lord is never in ignorance, but anger is that feature that will shake Sugriva up. And the best person to take that message is Lakshmana. Now, Ramachandra did not go. Why? Because he promised he will not enter cities and villages. So he sent Lakshmana. But this anger is not mundane anger. This anger is to make his dear friend come to his senses. So actually, this anger is going to benefit Sugriva. Imagine, for example, we are in the position of Sugriva, and we have promised a service to the Lord, and we lose that opportunity. Whose loss? Our loss.
Yes, bro. It's our loss.
Yes. So Ramachandra does not want Sugriva to lose that opportunity because he doesn't need Sugriva at all. He doesn't need the monkeys. He doesn't need anyone. But it's an opportunity for service, especially when he got a favor from the Lord. So out of friendship. Now in friendship, because they are in this case behaving like equals, in friendship, you can say to each other things. You will notice in the next few chapters, again, when Ramachandra is pining for Sita Devi, Sugriva says, don't get so easily lamenting about your wife. Be strong. He has the audacity to tell Ramachandra, be strong. And Ramachandra tolerates it because he has accepted him as friend. Nobody shakes hands with Ramachandra in the entire Ramayana. Sugriva does. So friends.
Yes, bro.
And some acharyas say that's very uncultured way of making friends, because Sugriva is Vanara. He shook hands with the great Ramachandra. So some in a humorous way they say that's what's his name, Darwin is true, because Sugriva shook hands. We all following Darwin are also shaking hands to make friendship. Sorry, you were going to say something.
But also we understood that Sugriva was the king, and if his transgression is not corrected,
Yeah.
then he is actually setting a very bad example for his followers.
Yad yad
So
acharati
the
shrestha.
leader needs to be corrected. That's the reason the Lord's anger is there, because if the leader is not corrected, then the followers will follow the same example.
They will think that our king did, or he didn't have to, so we don't have to. Cool. Okay, anything else?
What is the message of Mataji? I didn't hear clearly.
Message is yad yad acharati shrestha. That if Sugriva is not corrected, then all of his followers will have a bad example. So he needs to be set right. As a leader, as a king, he needs to be set right.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, should we end? Thank you. Hare Krishna, Shri Sri Sitaram